Welcome to Wide Awake Stories from Insomniac.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell about three you know so well.
Welcome to the Church of What's Happening Now.
From Insomniac.
This is a journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new value, and a new experience.
Broadcasting from the Insomniac HQ.
This is Wide Awake Stories.
Welcome to the first episode of Wide Awake Stories. This is a new monthly radio show from Insomniac HQ that's going to focus on a little bit of something different. It's going to focus on the people who make this community and this culture as unique and vibrant as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say that's what I enjoy most about our shows and working at Insomniac is just being able to walk around and talk to all the fans, the headliners, hear their stories. I mean, there's such a diverse group of people that it never gets old.
Yeah, it's hard to tell all the stories. I mean, you walk around from the people that are there, the headliners, to the people who are putting on the show, the people who are with Insomniac, the people who are affiliated with the show. There's so many, everyone has a story.
Hence the name, Wide Awake Stories. Welcome.
Wide Awake Stories.
We really want to dig into the culture and shine a light on the people who really bring the magic to these shows, whether it's someone on the Insomniac team who's behind the scenes putting it together, or any of our headliners who are out there making the magic happen on the dance floor.
Or an artist.
Artists as well. And a musical artist, producer, or a visual artist who comes to our shows as well.
Yeah, so I think sticking to the theme as much as possible is...
Yeah, we're gonna try and have a little bit of a theme for every episode. We don't want to go too crazy. And I think for this first episode, what better place to start than with PLUR? You know, the concept of PLUR. Peace, love, unity, respect, obviously. I think it gets a little bit of a bad rap sometimes in the culture. I think sometimes people dismiss it as a cheesy saying, and they don't really get down to the true meaning of what each word really stands for and how people put PLUR into action, not just at our shows, but in their daily lives. You know, it's this term that everyone knows and everyone's familiar with. You know, some people more than others. Some people put it into practice. For other people, maybe it's a little slogan on a hat.
Some people kind of laugh at it.
Some people do laugh at it, but we really wanted to dig deep and tell a bunch of stories associated with each letter of PLUR: the peace, the love, the unity, and the respect.
I mean, we met a good group of people in Vegas this year and kind of almost captured this first episode in Vegas for the most part. I got to talk to Frankie Bones. Dave got to talk to a couple that was married 20 years ago that is celebrating their 20-year anniversary and brought their son.
Yeah, that's something that you don't see anywhere except for our shows. I mean, you had I saw parents coming with their grandparents. I saw husbands and wives and such a wide range of stories and personality in Vegas. I mean, John, who did we talk to over there?
We talked to Tommie Sunshine about the night he fell in love with dance music, and that really resonated with me because I think anyone who is in this culture remembers the night when they really never left the dance floor.
Tommie Sunshine in a party in Chicago, in a very strange place that you would not expect a party to happen.
Man, that guy tells a good story.
Yeah, he really does tell a good story. I could listen to that guy talk all day.
So if you feel like you have a great story to tell, if you want to participate in Wide Awake Stories, check us out on Insomniac.com, email us at editorial@insomniac.com, or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, you guys are the ones who really make these stories happen, and you're the crux of the show. So when the more we can hear from you, the better the show's going to be.
Hit us up.
So in today's episode, we're going to take a deep dive into PLUR, letter by letter. We're talking about peace as it relates to police officers, who we call peace officers. We're talking about love with Tommie Sunshine, finding unity at the festival, and respecting your body.
Who better to kick off an episode about PLUR than the man who coined it himself? I got the chance to speak with Frankie Bones, who's a DJ, producer, promoter. I mean, he's kind of a huge pivotal figure in the dance music scene, and he shared his story about the night PLUR came to be. So have a listen. This is our first episode, Wide Awake Stories, with Frankie Bones, setting it up.
Wide Awake Stories.
Broadcasting from the Insomniac HQ.
My name is DJ Frankie Bones. Peace, love, unity, respect. Let's discuss what PLUR means to me. And basically, I was a DJ who was able to go to London in 1989 and play for Energy during the Summer of Love to 25,000 people. The unity part was the first thing I noticed when I looked at the crowd. I've never played to a crowd that big. 25,000 people was unheard of, especially being from America to go to London. And the unity in that crowd that morning, it was something that when I came home, I had 25,000 people dancing in my head. How am I gonna make this happen in New York? We get back to New York, reality sets in. New York was in a violent, it was not the New York we know today. It was very seedy, it was very dark. There's a lot of crime going on. People saying the racing's never gonna happen in New York. June 1st, 1990, I get my first tour to Los Angeles, and I wound up seeing them doing these underground parties in warehouses. And I knew right then and there, this PLUR thing, and I just had to bring it back to New York, and we came up with the Peace, Love, Unity movement. It was movement in the beginning because we were trying to create a movement. What I saw in Los Angeles and prior in London, we wanted to push the music as a movement with something I called Storm Rave. We did a party called Atmosphere on June 30th, 1990. It was in a club. It wasn't a rave. You can't really do the rave experience in a club, so the party was kind of successful. We showed videos of London, and I was like, this is not how it's done. Atmosphere was not how I wanted to do it, and a storm is a change in atmosphere, so we called it Storm. A few days later, my brother painted a train car, Peace, Love, Unity, and it was for the movement, and it was a subway car that had graffiti. Basically, wanted to get the message out there. Whenever we did a party, you came with peace, came with the love, unity, and respect. You always got to look out for the next person. We were doing parties in abandoned warehouses, just like they were doing in Los Angeles. And I was able to get both the London thing and the Los Angeles thing, and then bring it right back to the middle where I came from in New York. So we had Richie Houghton play Storm Rave in 1992, and Storm Rave was definitely the 2-year honeymoon period you get, like with raves, and everything was great. 1993 comes along, and here's Richie Houghton coming to the New Music Seminar. We booked him to play Caffeine. He got in late, and he had a lot of stuff to do Saturday, so he called us. There was no internet back then, so Richie was like, look, I'll make up the gig tomorrow. And we were in the venue. I'm like, there's 1,000 people at Caffeine. What do we do? So I just basically got on a mic and said, Richie's not going to be able to make it tonight. If you come to Ferry Point Park in the Bronx tomorrow night, he's going to do an encore, show. And we had 24 hours of just word of mouth to promote. 500 people showed up. And then this fight breaks out, and here we are in the Bronx. And I got up on the DJ. We had this old IBM table. The equipment was on. I got up on it, and I was like, if you don't start showing some peace, love, and unity, I'm gonna break your fucking faces, because I was really upset that a fight would break out. We never had a fight happen like that at a party. And I'm going off of the Warrior Cyrus thing because I'm in the Bronx, I mean, it's like where hip hop came from. We're right in hip hop's backyard, and it really upset me that, I knew all the people out were there, and we were trying to do something special. And Richie didn't even arrive yet. He didn't get there till like 4:30 in the morning. He closed it out, and the police came and kicked him off at like, I think 6:30 in the morning. And that was that. But basically, it was about the DJ. Richie to us was the first icon DJ, the Plastic Man thing, the Spastic thing. It was during the music seminar. And that's the night where PLUR became PLUR. The R replaced the M because the movement was created now. The PLUR thing has stayed the same from the very beginning. And if I didn't see it in Los Angeles, I would have never came up with it, because it was the only way we were going to do it in New York. And it went from west to east and east to west until it met up in the middle. And then, by 1993, and, we've been awake since 1993, but all of America had a rave scene. So basically, peace, love, unity, and respect to me means just look out for the next person and, have a great time, and just put all the negatives away, and it's all about positivity and vibes, what you put out there in the world. And that's what makes EDC such a special event, because these people come to Las Vegas now, and we have this speedway racetrack, and it's all about the true meaning of PLUR, 100%. All right, my name is DJ Frankie Bones. I'm out of here.
This is Wide Awake Stories.
So yeah, you're listening to Wide Awake Stories. We just heard from Frankie Bones on the impetus of PLUR. Hope you're enjoying the show so far.
That line, if you don't start showing some peace, love, and unity, I'm going to break your fucking faces. That's so not PLUR.
PLUR before PLUR.
But it all ended up peaceful in the end, so...
Oh, for sure.
PLUR prevails. It's great to hear such a legendary story from the legend himself.
Man, what a thick New York accent that guy has. Just New York through and through.
Maybe want to order a pretzel and a knish.
What a night. I wish I was there to live it.
So Frankie set it up for us, but we're going to dive into the first letter, of course, which is P, and we're going to start with peace. And we spoke to Officer Rick Nogues from the Las Vegas Metro PD, an organization that's really been amazing to us out in Las Vegas. They really do bring new meaning to the word peace officers out there.
They gotta love their job, right? I mean, overtime for this, and just look at the crowd they get to interact with. And I imagine 99% of their job is not dealing with people like our headliners. You know?
For sure.
Yeah. Did you see the female officer with the armful of candy? She was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. And all the time I see people going up and trading candy with police officers as well, which is always a great sight to see. So when I interviewed him, we were actually sitting at the top of the crow's nest at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and I had never been up there before, but looking out there, you see every single aspect of the festival. You see how much ground these guys actually have to cover and how many people attend EDC Vegas.
What's the crow's nest?
Yeah, if you've ever been down at EDC Vegas and you look up at the top where it says Las Vegas Motor Speedway and it looks like press boxes in the top, that's where all the command post is, and that's where everyone is kind of keeping an eye on the best vantage point of the entire show. You're going to hear Rick talk about what it's like to actually work these shows and be on the ground and all the things he has to put in place to make sure that everyone feels at peace, and not just headliners, but the people who organize the events, to make sure everything is running smoothly and that everyone has peace of mind. So let's hear from Rick Nogues in his amazing location at the Crow's Nest up there in the Speedway, talking about EDC Las Vegas.
Experience creators.
The view up here is pretty priceless. Right now we're at the top of the command post for EDC Las Vegas, looking out at all the stages and all the people. And introduce yourself and tell us your name and what you do with Las Vegas Metro Police Department.
Okay, my name is Rick Nogues, and I work in the special events section for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We're an events planning section, and we coordinate events throughout Clark County. I've been working with Insomniac for 6 years now. All the time that we've been doing events out here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, I've been a part of it. I would say I've never worked anywhere where I've seen something to this magnitude. The amount of people, the good people that I see here that are enjoying the friendships and the experience. I've never seen that anywhere, and I've been doing events or coordinated events since 1988, so it's been a long time for me.
I see you've got the candy around your wrist too. Are those the candy that you got here, or those ones from previous shows?
Yeah, those are ones from previous shows, but there was one candy that I got specific that somebody took the time to make. That said that it says "Thank you, LVMPD," and I thought that was pretty cool that somebody would take time to put that together and then to bring it here and actually give it to us. It made it seem like the relationship is good that way, that people would think that way. You know, one thing I see here and doing events for so many years is that you can tell the strength of the crowd, the relationship of the crowd. If somebody's injured or hurt or having a hard time and laying down somewhere, we actually see guests going and helping those people that they don't even know and helping them up or getting medical to them or going to grab police officers to help folks out. I know there's a lot of other types of events around the world where everybody's just kind of watching out for themselves. And that's a big deal for me. I think it makes me feel more like it's almost like a big family, and that's in that way I see it, and that's pretty clear.
Wide Awake Stories from Insomniac.
So you're listening to Wide Awake Stories, and that was Officer Rick Nogues talking to us about EDC.
Yeah, from live from the Crow's Nest at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm not going to lie, it was hard doing that interview because you're up there and these amazing jets are taking off from Nellis Air Force Base right nearby. So it's kind of hard to keep your eyes on the prize there.
You know, one of the most touching things about his story to me was how he just kind of differentiated and separated the electronic music scene and the fans, our headliners, compared to other shows that they might work, and just how respectful they are of the police officers and their peers, you know, like helping out friends, and him pointing that out, that he doesn't really see that at other shows, and that's something that's really special about Insomniac, really touched me.
Yeah, it's always good when our community gets a good look from law enforcement. You know, I think many times we're unfairly targeted, and to have people out there who are saying great things, not just about the events, but about the people at the events, it really goes a long way for sure.
At these events, I feel like officers oftentimes feel like people themselves, when sometimes they might not be treated this.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I imagine like people going up to cops at a rock concert, they're not trying to hug them and thank them.
No, but they do here. You see the photos and it actually happens.
Yeah.
End up with armfuls of candy, smiling, having a great time.
Who wouldn't love their job if that's what happened to them at work? Give me a hug, Rich.
You're tuned in to Wide Awake Stories.
That was great to hear from Rick Nogues himself. If you have any stories relating to positive interactions with police officers or peace officers at EDC Vegas or any of our shows, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter.
I know you guys can't give us real hugs, but you can definitely give us virtual hugs online. Hit us up with the hashtag WideAwakeStories on Facebook or Twitter, and tell us what you think of these stories, and if you have other stories of your own that you want to share with us. I mean, this show is all about you guys and speaking for you.
What's your story? You must have one. Everyone has one. Hit us up. Hashtag WideAwakeStories.
Get on it.
So the next letter in the alphabet is B, but obviously the next letter in the Ravers alphabet is L. So we're going to be talking about L and love, of course. Love is in the air at all of our shows.
Do y'all remember the night you fell in love with dance music?
I do, for sure. It was at Organic in 1996. I was sitting on a hillside at, I forget what ski slope valley it was, watching Orbital, Orb, The Chemical Brothers, Meat Beat Manifesto, Loop Guru. The list goes on and on. But that was definitely, I remember watching that show and feeling like I needed to have this music in my life for sure.
Mine was 94 in the desert somewhere that I have no idea. That took like 5 hours to get there, just trying to find from the map point and all the road signs and turn left at a rock.
I was finishing my English homework in 1994.
I was 1 year old, guys.
I don't know if John was born. John, were you born in 1994?
I can't do math, but I was born for sure.
What about you? When did you fall in love with dance music?
2006, Daft Punk, Coachella. I saw the Pyramid, and within that 12-month calendar year, I saw that same show 3 times. I was following that show as much as I could.
That was the Alive tour, right?
It became the Alive tour.
That's right.
I was there. It was a good show.
It was an amazing show.
Yeah.
Game changer. Sam, when did you fall in love with dance music? What's your story?
Mine was actually, funny enough, at EDC 2006, back when it was at the Orange Show. I had no idea what I was getting into. I heard about raves, and there was basically this negative connotation, and the minute I stepped foot through the door, I was hooked.
Never left the dance floor.
And now he's like our office oracle on music.
Dave, what about you? Do you remember the night you fell in love with dance music?
I can't think of a specific night when I fell in love with dance music.
But it involves
probably means
Prince.
It was a really good night. No, it involves Prince.
When you heard Call on Me by Eric Prydz.
That's the night the dance music fell in love with Dave.
It was a night for me back up in high school, probably up in the mountains of Santa Cruz. We had a couple great nights up there, and I think the real game changer for me was going to Sensation White in Amsterdam in 2011. That's the night I fell in love with dance music.
Wide Awake Stories.
Broadcasting from the Insomniac HQ.
We got in touch with Tommie Sunshine, who's a pretty amazing character, been in the scene for a long time. He recounts a pretty amazing tale of the night that he fell in love with dance music, which incidentally, is a series on Insomniac.com. He did this for us, but you can go to Insomniac.com and check out a whole series of articles on the night I fell in love with dance music. We interview photographers, musicians, fans, publicists, everyone who's a part of the scene, and find out how and where and when they fell in love with this culture, just like we all did.
And why don't you guys listen and tell us about the night you guys fell in love with dance music?
Yeah, hit us up online, hashtag Wide Awake Stories on Facebook and Twitter, and tell us about how you, right there, sitting in your car,
in the gym, in the bathtub, at school, wherever you might be, we want to hear from you.
So now we've got Tommie Sunshine telling his story about the night he fell in love with dance music. And man, he's like the Hunter S. Thompson of the rave scene.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss this one.
Yeah, strap on your seatbelts.
Artist Relations.
The night I fell in love with dance music wouldn't have been the first night I heard dance music, but it would have been a very specific party that I remember very well in Chicago called Gator Rave. And the flyer was a spoof on the Gatorade bottle. And I remember that night getting dressed up to go out. I used to wear these size 52 overalls from a place called Farm and Fleet. And I used to keep a Muppet in the front pocket. Had a squeaking nose and brought that thing with me everywhere. On the way out of Naperville, which is where I lived at the time, it was about 45 minutes southwest of Chicago. And I would always stop at this one truck stop on the way out of town to pick up mini thins, which were these, I don't know, it was ephedrine basically. And they sold it at truck stops. Grabbed that on the way out of town and headed for this party. Now, we didn't know at the time where it was, what part of Chicago it was going to be in. This is back in the days when there'd be a map point. You'd have to call a number. It was a pretty complicated process. But by the time we got all the information, we ended up at this elementary school on the west side of Chicago. The party was in the basement of this elementary school. This was the summer of 1992. And what you have to understand is that in the summer of 1992, the west side of Chicago was serious gang territory. Latin Kings, Maniac Latin Disciples, lots of other rival gangs. Not some place that a white kid from the southwest suburbs had any business being in. And I remember walking into this party, and the first person I met was a guy named Bob Smiley. This guy used to dance with an inflatable tube of toothpaste that was about 4 feet tall. And this guy sold me my first $5 nitrous balloon. And if you can imagine what the music was like in this place, I mean, this is full-on 92 rave here, so I'm just blistering, banging, proper techno, mostly from the UK. Now, this party was very, very bizarre. There were plastic trash cans full of punch, and that punch was made with God knows what, and there was no way I was going to drink that, which is funny because I had no problem dropping LSD, but I didn't want to drink the punch. I also met Phil Freeart that night, which was this kid from Chicago who drew this zine, and it was all original artwork. He was also a graffiti kid. And I just kind of looked around the room and I was like, okay, there are all these people and they had all these strong personalities and they're all like me. And I got along with these people on a level that I had not gotten along with my high school friends. I had not gotten along with anyone else who lived in my town. This was different. This was family. And I knew I was in for something really special that night. The DJ that they flew in for this party was a guy called the Music Maker. He was from London or Sheffield, but he was from the UK. And there was a moment that night that's as clear to me today in 2016 as it was in 1992 as it was happening. The Music Maker dropped Apotheosis, O Fortuna, and this was a record we had not heard before. And the drama and the pomp and circumstance of that record. And when it dropped and we all went so crazy, and right as it got to the peak of the record, somebody turned all the lights off in the basement of this elementary school on the south side of Chicago. And there was one guy with a coal miner hat, and that light was the only light in this room other than the little bit of light that was coming off the turntables. And I just remember looking around with what little light was in that room, high on LSD, being in this environment for the first time and really feeling that I belonged there. And that night was my first psychedelic experience at a rave. And it was beyond glorious. In that moment, I felt no different than a kid in the jazz age in the 20s, or a kid from the beat generation in the 50s, or a hippie in the 60s. I knew I had found it. I knew I had tapped into that undefinable subculture that's been around since the beginning of time and is exactly the same today for a kid who hears that one record and it totally blows their mind. And that night in Chicago at Gator Rave with the Music Maker and O Fortuna, that was the night I fell in love with dance music, and I'll never forget it.
Wide Awake Stories from Insomniac.
You're listening to Wide Awake Stories, and that was a Tommie Sunshine. Don't drink the punch, guys.
Yeah, no, definitely not. This is an amazing story. I'm trying to picture Tommie without his hair because he didn't have that long hair at the time with a Muppet in the front of his overalls. That's a mental image that I can't get out of my head right now.
Believe it or not, the first time I met Tommie he had short hair.
And did he have a Muppet in his overalls?
He did not have a Muppet in his overalls, but he was still this big personality that he is with the short hair. For sure.
No, I'm sure. And remember, we want to hear your stories too. Hit us up online, #WideAwakeStories. Tell us about the night you fell in love with dance music. And that track as well, I think if ever there was a hands in the air, memorable rave track, O Fortuna is definitely one of them for sure.
At least for the old farts like us.
Yeah. I don't know about these young kids, about John and Sam. What do you guys?
Nope. Not banging
A little
enough.
too dramatic?
Not banging enough.
Little Rave of Thrones?
It's a little Rave of Thrones.
See, what is that score on the banger level, Dave?
0.
Pretty down there.
Is that a negative?
What's wrong with you people? We talked about peace. We talked about love. We're about to talk about unity.
Ravers definitely put the unity in community, that's for sure.
Indeed, they do.
Yeah, unity takes on so many different forms at our shows. The clown troops you see, or any of the performers that are there in Vegas, I mean, that's the epitome of unity. They have to know exactly what the other one is doing without really being able to talk to one another and communicate so that they don't break that fourth wall with the headliners. Obviously, there's rave fams everywhere. I mean, you see squads going together, huge groups of people. Sometimes they're all dressed the same or they all come from the same place. And Dave, you talked to a couple that's the epitome of unity, didn't you?
This couple might have created the most amazing rave fam of them all. You're really going to believe in the unifying power of these festivals after you hear this story. I sure did after I talked to this couple who had decided to have their renewal vows there after 20 years of being married. And what more perfect of a situation to get 20 years of marriage, the 20th year of EDC.
And they brought their kid.
And they brought their
Was
kid.
he 20 years old?
He wasn't 20 years old, though that would have been really perfect. I believe he had just turned 18 and was now able to go to an Insomniac event, and I think the whole family was super excited because it made so much sense for them to all go together. And the parents, they bought their kids' ticket. He brought his friends, and they all got a hotel room together and just had the best old time. So this is what happened when I met up with Paul and Erika this summer at EDC Las Vegas.
Wide Awake Stories from Insomniac.
My wife, Erika, and we met in the club scene in Chicago over 20 years ago. Yeah. 20 years ago, yeah. 20 years ago. We met at a club, Club 950 in Chicago. And I remember my sister came out to go out partying with me, and that's when I met Erika. She brought her friend Erika, and that was it. We've been together ever since. Our first date was the next weekend after that, and that was 20 years ago.
Yep, 20 years ago, and we love dancing. We love going to clubs. We've always been into, all that kind of stuff over the years, but then, you get older and you stop doing things like that, but then our son got us back into it.
Yeah,
he
it was
loves
great.
that kind of music, and he started getting us into that music.
Yeah,
and
it was a different club scene back then.
yeah.
Listening to Moby and going to the early clubs like Limelight just opened up in Chicago, Crowbar, we were the giant clubs back then in Chicago. So we started going to big scenes like that. And yeah, like you say, after you have kids, you get older and stuff, and it's great to come back into it. And the whole like love scene here, as soon as we started finding out more about the rave culture that's still really vibrant here, it was just really great for us. I think there's a lot more love that needs to be had in this world, especially now. All you got to do is turn on the news and you see the opposite of that, and this is really good representation for us of the love that is in the world. You can come to a place like this, doesn't matter what you look like, what sex you are, what color you are, anything like that, and you're just part of the family here, and it's just awesome. So this is like the antithesis of all the bad stuff going on in the world right now. Yeah, so we decided to come to EDC. It was basically, I think, a couple of years ago that my son went to a rave in Albuquerque, and he was only 17, and it was an underage club that he went to, and so we started asking more about this, and I'm like, well, what are these places like? And so he started showing pictures and talking about it more, and then started playing the music for us, and we just started loving the music. I'm like, man, this is like a lot of the old Moby and other club tunes that we used to listen to, but it's more electronic, and it was just awesome. So we kind of came to it from that.
And then he told us about EDC, and that's when we started looking into it. We started watching all the trailers and the videos and the podcasts, all that, and we were just like, oh my God, we got to do this.
Yeah, and then we're like, holy crap, it's our 20-year anniversary.
Yes.
It's the 20-year anniversary of EDC. Yeah, and he was a senior in high school. We're like, Carl, you graduate, we'll buy tickets, we'll all go there as a family. And he's like, no way, you would do that?
Yes, he was totally shocked, but we put the whole trip together. We thought, you know what, we're doing this, and then Paul came up with the idea of, well, it's EDC's 20-year and it's our 20-year anniversary, so let's do a recommitment at EDC at the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, here we are.
This is Wide Awake Stories.
Broadcasting from the Insomniac HQ.
You're listening to Wide Awake Stories. That was Paul and Erika talking about their love at EDC. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people finding love at one of our shows or one of our festivals. And we want to hear your story. If you met your love, or if you met your bestie, hit us up. # Wide Awake Stories. Facebook, Twitter. We want to hear from you.
So far on this debut episode of Wide Awake Stories, we've gone down the PLUR alphabet. We've covered peace and talking to Rick Nogues of the Las Vegas Metro PD and all of his peace officers. We've obviously talked about love, and we had a great story from Tommie Sunshine telling us about the night he fell in love with dance music. And you just heard a great story about unity from Paul and Erika, a couple who'd been married for 20 years and celebrated their 20-year vows at the 20th anniversary of EDC.
And now at the final letter, which represents one of the biggest elements of PLUR, respect.
Respect is super important. I mean, it's the last letter. It's like the anchor in rave culture. And again, like peace and love and unity, respect can take on so many different forms.
So I got to talk to the Consciousness Group team in Vegas, and what a just really solid, real group of people these guys are. And the service they do at the shows is so important. I mean, they're basically there to listen to people and hear their stories and help them if they can, or just simply provide like a decompression space from the craziness that is the festival.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how far they've come since the first time we met them in 2013 at Escape.
Yeah, that first show, there was hardly anybody rolling through their tent. And now, if you look at Vegas, I mean, it was popping off. Like, it was busy.
That leaves us with the last and final letter of PLUR, R, which obviously stands for respect. It's the final pillar of PLUR. We spoke with the Consciousness Group, who really emphasized the idea of respecting your mind and your body.
This is Wide Awake Stories.
Cool. So I'm sitting here with the Consciousness Group, and why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, this is Q Brickle with Consciousness Group.
Pat Ochoa.
Hi, my name's Alan T.
Can you tell me a little bit about what Consciousness Group is all about, why you guys are here, and what you're doing?
Yeah, Consciousness Group is a group of clean and sober music fans that provide a safe place for people to come, get away from all the craziness of the festival, find some like-minded folks who are choosing to do this thing clean and sober. We provide meetings for people who are in recovery or struggling to find traction in what could otherwise be a slippery slope, and we make sure that no matter what someone's life decision is out here, that they feel respected and loved.
Is there kind of one story, like personal story, that's kind of hit home with a headliner that's come through that kind of, falls into this respect thing, that maybe their story just resonated with you guys a lot?
We had a young man come up to us at one of these festivals one time, and he walked up and he's talking to us and he's telling us how he's high on love, and we're looking at him like, man, like, been high on a lot of things. I don't know about love though, And he asks if he can come in the tent. He asks if he can rest for a while. We say, absolutely, come on in. He ends up falling asleep in the tent, and the next day we come in and he's still just asleep on the floor. It's one of the festivals that allows camping, and we pull him up into a chair for one of the meetings, and for one of our support group meetings, and he's standing there and he's sitting there, and at first we all kind of thought he was kind of just dozing off still, and I kept looking over at him, and I realized slowly but surely he's nodding his head and he's picking up what it is that we're saying, and he's slowly starting to listen. And after the meeting, he kind of starts talking to some of us and says, hey, like, I don't know if this is the life I want to live anymore. I really like some of the stuff y'all said. Would you be able to help me out? Would you be able to talk to me? And we got him linked up with some other people. And he came back a year later for one day of the festival, just one day of the festival. And he came walking up, and it was completely a different person. It was like seeing the same thing, but a completely different person. And he walks up and he says, I bought a ticket to this festival just for today, to come in and say thank you because I've got 1 year sober today. And the amount of respect that goes into something like that, for him to pick up our message, because we didn't judge him. We would never judge somebody for coming in here for what it is that they want or what it is they think they might need. And the fact that we were able to love him enough to do that radically changed this man's life.
It's a great story, man. I mean, are you constantly kind of shocked at every show, like whether it's an Insomniac event or just by doing what you do? I mean, do you kind of probably have those stories on a regular basis, huh?
Every show we do, I walk away in awe. Every single time we do an event, no matter where we are in the country, I walk out of here with a new experience. And because we really never know how many lives we're going to affect by doing this stuff.
Yeah, we're always honored, first and foremost, to be out here and to be given a position to come out here and the privilege to be of service to this community. Harmonium, the nonprofit that stands behind Consciousness Group, we do a lot of different shows all over the country, and by far and away, Insomniac shows tend to be the most profound for us because this community is founded on this PLUR idea, and they respond so well to us. I mean, they respond so incredibly well, and even if they don't buy what it is we're trying to give them, or even if they don't fall in line with our ideals, they respect us and they love us, and they have this unity with us enough to walk away and say, like, that's a really cool thing you guys are doing.
It's like, what you guys do, how does it help you guys on a personal level? Like, you're here helping everybody else, but what do you get out of this?
So, I mean, I think about where I was 30 minutes ago, listening to Doc Martin, one of my favorite DJs of all time, and I'm up front, and I got my eyes closed, and I'm dancing, and I open my eyes, and there's this young guy dancing, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he big smile on his face, and he gave me a big hug, and he thanked me for talking to him yesterday. I don't know the impact that I have on others, but I know the impact that kid had on my life in that moment. I felt loved, I felt respected, I felt a part of, and to get the opportunity to be of service to another human being. For me, when my spirit connects with someone else's spirit, like the power of that is healing. It heals me. It heals the wounds for me on the inside. The wounds of my perception of my own life, of the hurts and the stuff in my life. It heals those wounds. For me, I mean, it's far more greater sometimes, I think, for me than the impact I have on other people.
Wide Awake Stories.
So you're listening to Wide Awake Stories. This is our first episode, and you just heard from the Consciousness Group talking about the last letter of PLUR, respect, and just how it's important to respect all facets of both your body and your mind, and respect your fellow headliners, and create an amazing experience.
You know, one of the most sincere forms of respect is actually sitting down and listening to what somebody else has to say. And, you know, that's what they do at the shows.
If you see the Consciousness Group at any of our festivals, stop by.
Say hi.
Say hi.
Yeah, give them a high five or a hug and let them know that you appreciate what they do. So that's a wrap on our first episode of Wide Awake Stories. We really hope you guys enjoyed hearing what we had to say.
We talked to some pretty awesome people in Vegas. I mean, I got the chance to talk to Frankie Bones about the impetus of PLUR and how it all came to be. I chatted with the Consciousness Group. They're doing amazing work.
I probably got to chat with the coolest rave family of all time.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And if you're at our shows and you see us, we're the guys walking around with these little mics. We got a little logo on them. Probably got a little radio attached to our shoulders. If you see us, come up and say hello and tell us your story. We definitely want to hear it, and maybe you can make it into the next episode of Wide Awake Stories.
We'll be here doing this again next month. We can't wait to show you what we have up next.
We're going to explore self-expression and what that means to our fans. I honestly believe we have the most creative and most expressive fans in the world. And to see your totems, to see your costumes, to see your smiles and your candy, there's no other place where you'll find more self-expression than at any of our shows.
In the meantime, if you have any suggestions or want to hit us up and tell your own story, feel free to hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, #WideAwakeStories.
And let us know how you express yourself.
So make sure to tune in next month for an all-new episode of Wide Awake Stories. We'll be talking about self-expression.
See you next time.
PLUR out.
Tune in next month for a new episode of Wide Awake Stories.